Yo, this your boy James over at XpectoGO, bringing you guys the latest and greatest in Harry Potter Magic Awakened content. And today, we're here to show off our Obscurus deck, which has gotten me on an 8-game winning streak and less than 200 points away from reaching Diamond, which is a seasonal task that some of you guys, particularly in our Discord, have expressed frustration with. Link will be in the description below. So hopefully this deck helps you guys, and it's with an Echo I have been refusing to use, but I'm using it, and it's the Bellatrix Lestrange Echo. Obviously, there's a meter which allows you to summon Death Eaters up to 3 max, and I've been on an 8-game winning streak and close to Diamond because of this Echo, and so I'm going to share this my deck with you guys. This is a hyper-offensive Bellatrix Lestrange deck. I say hyper-offensive because I really have no defensive cover or healing with this deck. Nebulous is usually a mainstay in any of my decks, and I don't have it here. But I do have some of the cards that kind of do 2 things for us, which gives us a buffer to replace the Nebulous card. So starting with the Obscurus, which is the featured card here. Obscurus just does great things. It's an AoE type of damage. You're invincible while on the opponent's side of the field, and you get to dish out 6 basic attacks in a sphere AoE type range. What's so cool about it is you're able to dodge attacks like Incendio or Atmosphere Charm, giving you that buffer of avoiding attacks even from summons while also doing damage, just like the Broom. Speaking of the Broom, I paired a Pugno with the Obscurus card strictly because I think Obscurus is just like the Broom, and with a Pugno you can bring your Pugno with your Obscurus while on the other opponent's side of the field, doing the 6 basic attacks that the Obscurus does, while also doing damage with a Pugno, which is also boosted with this deck. So very, very clutch. Again, very hyper offensive, and allows me to build up my Death Eater meter even more. Speaking of doing multiple things, just like the Obscurus, we also have the Niffler, and the Niffler is there for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the first one, to get more MP, so I can get more summons out, so I can get more damage and build up my Death Eater meter, but also it's a distraction. It allows me to have a buffer. When cats send out Atmosphere Charm, they'll target the Niffler. When cats send out their summons or even specific cards, it targets specifically the Niffler and gives me a chance to, again, build up more in MP and build up more damage to my Death Eater meter. So again, I don't have the Nebulous card, but just these 2 cards alone are pretty wide-ranging in support for me, just because I don't have the Nebulous card. Then we have the Bombastic Bombs, which is a mainstay in any Bellatrix Lestrange deck, which also boosts the attacks for Monster Book of Monsters and the Pixies. And then the Atmosphere Charm, which does great damage. Again, trying to build up the Death Eater meter. And then the stack of Monster Book of Monsters with the regular Monster Book of Monsters allows you to go directly to the opponent without getting distracted, which is what the Niffler does against my opponent. So this is the deck, and again, hyper offensive. Speaking of hyper offensive, we have the Twins as support, just because I don't have Draco, but I can summon them on the other side of the opponent's field, doing damage and keeping them distracted. Again, we're trying to build up our Death Eater meter as fast as we can so we can have a head start, especially going against other Bellatrix Lestrange decks, and the Frey Twins do a great job of that. So that's the first wave. The next wave is with Cassandra, just in case I need to build up more MP and my opponent brings over their wave. I have a defensive measure, and Cassandra is just OP, one of the best support cards that goes with any deck. And then the final off, we have Ron, just in case cats want to send a bunch of stuff their way, especially once the MP starts being boosted, speed goes up later in the round. If I'm going against the summons deck and I just want more damage to build up my Death Eater meter, Ron is clutch. Now, speaking of Death Eaters, the Obscurus also allows me, again, if the meter is close, I can put Death Eaters on my opponent's side. And you guys will see that in the next couple of battles, which is a great way to get quick and effective damage that could turn the tide in any battle. So Obscurus is pretty clutch outside of the 40% more damage you take when you teleport back. Now, our first battle has us going against a platinum player, which is above me, a powerful opponent, using another Bellatrix Lestrange deck. So I'm already worried. We have him on HP, so we're pretty good there. But I send out my stack of Monster Book of Monsters, and I get the Frey Twins out, and immediately they turn into chess pieces with Ron. So I'm just like 7 MP gone, and my companion gone immediately, and they took it out. I still have 1 Monster Book of Monster left, but I'm dealing with Ron still doing passive damage. But as you can see, my Niffler is protecting me and keeping the opponent distracted, even with the Opali as it's finally taken out. But up until that point, it was doing its job, the Niffler was. So now I got to deal with the Opali and Ron, and eventually I dodge the Overwater. I tried to get close to use my Pugna on the Death Eater with no luck, but I do get out my Death Eater, and I do have my Monster Book of Monsters distracted, only to see my Death Eater taken out immediately, doing nothing. So now, okay, I got Cassandra out there just as the defense mechanism, and I'm building up MP. As you can see on the bottom, I'm at 8, and I send my stack, and immediately they get taken out. Immediately. So that's 2 stack of Monster Book of Monsters taken out immediately with Confringo. Such a good card. But I'm able to use the Obscurus card to take out the Bombastic Bombs and do damage on the opponent, because I know it was setting up some summons against me. With any Bellatrix Lestrange deck, you need the Bombastic Bombs, so to be able to take it out early was pretty good. I was unfortunately unable to dodge the Orb of Water, but I'm still here, I'm still good. They send out the Opali, and I have my bombs out, but I'm able to handle the Opali with the Pixies, and I do get my 2 Death Eaters out before they are actually able to get out their second set of Death Eaters. So they take out my Death Eater, but I still was able to get damage, and I take out their Bombastic Bombs immediately as well while doing damage against them, and Ron is out there. So now we turn the tide, but I'm expecting more coming my way, and it does, as they got Draco Squad and the Opali out and their Bombastic Bombs, and I'm just over here with my Niffler who's distracting the Draco Squad, and I'm able to get out my my Death Eaters and do work, and now I have them on the ropes, and I finish them off with my Pugno and Obscurus. Now, you just saw how fast I was able to get out my Death Eaters with this hyper-offensive Bellatrix Lestrange deck and do some great damage against my opponent and their Bombastic Bombs with the Obscurus card. Alright, so our next battle is against a legendary Newt Echo deck and a Master of Magic. So I'm already worried because I'm not there yet. So off the jump, I'm pretty good, and I'm waiting for my stack of Monster Book of Monsters. I get close so I can get the Freys out there as well. So they're over there, and now they're keeping them distracted while I'm also doing damage against the Thunderbird and my opponent with Obscurus. So I'm doing good. I'm not worried about anything, even though I'm susceptible to more damage. So we're good. We're good. Now, they send out their stack of Monster Book of Monsters, but they were distracted by my Bombastic Bombs, and now Ron is over here doing work, and I'm like, okay, I'm good, but I immediately take out their Niffler, and so we're still pretty good sitting. I'm still pretty high on HP. I send out a stack of Monster Book of Monsters, and I get the Niffler, hoping to keep the Centaur distracted. It doesn't. But I do get my Death Eater out first. It takes out these Pixies here, but I see the Bombastic Bombs, and I take those out along with doing damage against my opponent. Taking out those Bombastic Bombs with any deck, particularly a Lestrange deck or a Summons deck, is clutch. I get Atmosphere Charm out there. It's distracted by the Niffler, which is why I have it on my side, but it's unable to do passive damage on my opponent. So we're at a standstill here. They get their Centaur out, and I got my Bombastic Bombs getting ready to send out my summons. I get my Niffler to build up MP, and we're getting ready for our next wave of attacks. All right, so he sends out their Opali, and I send out my stack of Book of Monsters. So they keep them distracted, and I don't have to worry about anything, but I do have this Rumpet and Monster Book of Monsters coming with the Bombastic Bombs. I wanted to take out the bombs, but I do eventually here with the Obscurus. Yo, so clutch. Again, less damage I'm able to take, the longer I'm able to hang on to the battlefield and build up my Death Eater meter. Now I'm just dodging and waiting until I get my wave out. So I send out Ron and my 2 Death Eaters out, which are clutch. Now they're sending out their monster book, but I got my stack, my Death Eaters, and my Ron, which turned into animals because of McGonagall and Confringo taking them all away. So my huge wave is taken out immediately, and my opponent is ready to make their move. Now I'm getting passive damage against them. They're at right now 500. They're at right now 571, and I'm at 874. So they're still a little bit lower than I am, but there's a lot coming at me, especially with McGonagall. But I still have my Niffler as a distraction, and now they just start bombing me. And I went from 800 to 100, and my opponent is at 387. And so this is really bad right now. But, and they get out the statues, which is amazing, from McGonagall. They're able to pull that off. But I get the Obscurus going, and what does this do? It summons a Death Eater on that side. So now I'm at 20, they're at 113, and I have a Death Eater here to keep the statue and McGonagall distracted, and my Bombastic Bombs over here. And I cannot believe I'm going to say this. I eventually win. Let's slow this down to as slow as we can. I back up, and just because of the Death Eater being so close range, I eventually win, and I keep my 20, and my opponent is down to 0 and taken out. Which, again, the Obscurus teleporting your Death Eater timed well. That was a clutch moment for me. And so I was able to do damage on my opponent and get the Death Eater out when they were 300 or 400 HP higher than I was. And I was sitting at 40 to 20. But yo, now that you've seen my deck in action, what do you guys think about the deck? How do you guys feel about it? What tweaks would you add or remove concerning my deck? Comment below, let me know. Let's talk some Harry Potter Magic Awakened. Thank you guys so much for watching the video and hanging out with your boy. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was educational. And I overall hope it was entertaining. If it was, be sure to drop a like and subscribe button and notification bell so you miss out on more content coming for you guys from Harry Potter Magic Awakened. And while you're waiting, make sure to check out the video to your right in front of me. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you in the next video. Until